meeting is called to order at 2:03. Interim City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Lister?
Here.
Commissioner Hodges?
Here.
Commissioner Oakley?
Here.
Vice Mayor Dalford?
Present.
Mayor Black?
Here. All right, first thing on the agenda is the John's Pass Seafood Festival, and I think Sunny Flynn is here. Is she? There you are.
Ms. Sunny Flynn with the Johns Pass Village Association, president. Beside me is Troy Hayes. He's one of my lead chairmen on the Seafood Festival Board. Today, we're before you to request that our fees be waived for the Johns Pass Seafood Festival. We are a nonprofit organization, and before you, you have your expenses and our donations. And if you look at the top of the donations, you'll see that our biggest contribution was to the city of Madeira Beach for $27,000. We do believe in our community and we do give back. Our charities are our main goal. This year we're sponsoring the American Heart Association, the Lupus Foundation, Pinellas County Schools, and offering 12 other charities access to the festival. And I'm here to answer any questions you have.
I see the chart here for your expenses, but I don't see a chart for your revenue.
Our revenue was $554,000.
554,000?
Is that 5 or 3?
$554,000.
And where is the 27,000? Oh, is that at the top number there? Okay.
And where do you get this number? I mean, obviously, it's not all dollars. It's
For the city of Madeira
it's
Beach.
in-kind services as well, like the parking lots and.
No, the donations is from Johns Pass Village to the city of Madeira Beach. Yes, we donated it in cash.
Those are donations to us. We're not donating back.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, do we have an event application?
Yes.
I haven't seen one.
No, I haven't seen it either. It's not in our book. We don't have a copy of it. We'd like to see that, please.
How many years have we been doing this, honey?
This will be the 36th year.
36 years, okay.
And every year it gets bigger and better.
Every year it gets bigger and better. This year we're focusing on quality, not quantity. Last year we had a little over 250,000 in attendance, making us the largest in the seafood festival in the state of Florida in the United States. This year we not only won Best Festival, but we also won the Flagler Award, which is a marketing award by Visit Florida. Johns Pass Village, not just this festival, but Johns Pass Village is an integral part of Madeira Beach. The residual benefits of our marketing goes to Johns Pass Village, so no one has to invest in it. We invest in ourselves, which brings tourists to our area and economic impact to our area. Just in room nights alone, we had 122,081 in bed tax dollars just from our event.
Oh, you say you're planning on using local seafood rather than, like in the paper, you know, was talking
Unfortunately, we had no control over who we had last year. We have required this year that they are going to be using local seafood. Bad press, again, out of our control. I had a promoter. This year, there is no promoter. Johns Pass Village Association has taken on the role.
Which I believe we had in the beginning, 36 years ago when we started. I know Mr. Catelli, who's sitting in the audience, and Pat Johns were instrumental in starting the Seafood Festival, and I know that they had control of that. So it's good that we get the control back from, who was running that for a while? Was their name?
SIK Productions.
What is it you're actually asking us to waive? We have no clue as to what it is.
Yeah, we have no paperwork.
We're asking for Johns Pass Park and Johns Pass Village parking lot. We're also asking for the assistance of the city of Madeira Beach, which the hard costs are about $10,000. Realistically, I understand that there are hard costs involved in it. We're just asking that you give back to us and we can give back to you.
Sonny, we've done this before in the past, haven't we?
Yes, you have.
Okay.
Are you expecting to have as many people this year, or expecting more or less?
We don't expect as many people as last year. However, because it's not 4 days, we extended the event to 4 days last year. So this year it's back to 3 days. So we don't anticipate the extra 45,000 we had on Thursday last year.
All right, I was curious because the year before last when I went, it was so crowded I could hardly walk.
Well, and the footprint has changed as well. We've expanded it down to Waltz, so we opened it up so it's not as congested. The parking lot, the removal of the median has now opened up that whole area just so people can stand instead of in the streets, so there's walkway. Rest assured, we're making sure that all security is taken care of. In addition to our police officers, we do hire Pinellas County sheriffs, and that is an expense that we have to put out.
Sonny, in the past,
This year, it's about $12,000.
I'm sorry, in the past, they used a company to do the garbage pickup and the cleanup. Is that going to be the same thing now?
We have reached out to Goodwill Girls, and we also have Extreme Clean that's coming to help with cleanup, but we're requesting that our city helps us with the dumps and the trash.
Well, I can't make any kind of decision until I see the event paperwork, because we need to find out what the actual hard costs are to the city and weigh that against what you're asking for.
Okay, it's understandable. Any other questions?
You said that you donated 27,000 back to the city, correct, from last year's?
That's correct.
Well,
Actually, let me clarify, not actual dollars, the sign, well, we have $9,000 for the median and electric was donated in cash, as well as $1,000 for the Hubbard's fishing trip. And then the $17,000 for the brand new sign that went in, that is a city sign, and we replaced it because it was falling down and rotting. So the association paid for that sign to be installed. The fish fell off.
Madam Mayor, we'll have a copy of that event permit to you before this meeting is over today. What they're asking for is about $30,000 in in-kind services to be waived. About $20,000 of that is parking revenue, which we've never collected in the past. And the other is for services to be rendered as far as assistance down there. They will have to have their own cleanup crews and waste disposal down there, because we simply do not have staff to dedicate to that event exclusively. So we'll have that event permit for you as soon as possible.
what's the 30,000 include, Chief?
Other assistance and services that are given down there. Dave, you want to speak to that?
I haven't been involved in the meetings, but I think, Doug, it's the estimated number was 10,000. That was for hard cost. Is that?
Hard costs were 10,000. Parking was somewhere between 17 and 20,000. Lost revenue.
It's not budgeted revenue, but.
Yeah, I mean, we've never seen, in 36 years, we haven't seen that revenue. So Walt doesn't prepare his budget thinking that revenue's coming that week. Our revenues are always non-existent. But it's still lost revenue for the city, correct?
Yeah, technically it is.
It's revenue that we've never had in the past, but yes, it is. I agree. Yeah, absolutely. It's revenue that we're not going to get.
Yeah, we're not talking about past years, we're talking
Yeah.
about this year. That's all I'm
Yes,
asking
sir.
about.
Exact figure that we're coming up with is 19,738. If you take other days in these parking station locations in Johns Pass, that's the figure that we're coming up with. So it's about $20,000.
Johns Pass Seafood Festival was started at this time of year because it's one of the lowest times of the year that nobody's here. We were trying to get people to come down to Johns Pass. So for us to say that those parking places would have been full is asinine. They're not going to be full. You know, whatever number we come up with is probably considered full parking for all day long, and that's not true. That simply wouldn't happen in August and September.
Just to clarify,
It's in October.
for the budget that I've given you for 2018, the proposed budget, those projections are based ignoring this, because that is correct. That is money that we have not received in the past, so when I do a projection, I'm not picking that up.
Well, in all this, I'd also like to see a hard line. What is in the $10,000 hard cost? What is all these? Because we need to figure out if we're going to break even on this or if we are going to make a donation to this. We need to understand everything inside of it.
I'll make you a copy of this letter here that Mr. Andrews just gave me. The CMS costs, sanitation costs, public works costs, some tipping fees, barrel rentals.
Yeah, that's what we need to see.
I have a copy of that for you today.
Thank you.
I'd also like to see a breakdown of the $27,000, because it's not all cash, and just exactly how much is what there.
You've always done a good job with it. You know it's going to be good this year, too.
Thank you, Sonny.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the public?
And I live at 131st Ave here in Madeira Beach. And I would just like to say, I was pleased that the Rotary event, which was held a couple weeks ago, I just saw the picture in the paper, gave back $25,000 to the city of Oak Ridge, or the city of Madeira Beach. Excuse me, city of Madeira Beach. Fabulous. And I just don't see how a festival like the Seafood Festival of a magnitude so much greater wouldn't have more revenues and be able to cover more costs that the city seems to be outlaying. I'm just listening here to figures. So that's just one thing I would like you to consider, because if they gave back $27,000 for a 4-day event, how did Rotary give back $25,000? Now, I know they're different festivals, but that's just me as a taxpayer looking at how expenses are within our city.
Thank you.
Yes.
On. I'm Troy Hayes of Madeira Beach. I've been involved in this
Your
festival.
address, please.
What's that?
Your address, please.
401 150th Avenue.
Thank you.
I've been involved in the festival for about 3 years now, working with Sonny, and the difference between the Rotary event and the seafood event is that the seafood event actually attracts tourism, generates bed tax dollars for everyone here in the community. When you think about just not just bed tax dollars, you have to think about all the things at the restaurants. They're all sold out every day. It's also a difference in a community involvement event where people have pride in their event and pride in their city. So there is a difference between Rotary is pure charity. I belong to the Rotary in a couple different towns, and it's a different event. And this event is, the seafood event is really an event that's built to build on civic pride, and it happens to have a charity component to it, but it's really about building business in the off-season, as the commissioner said. It's generally the slowest time, and those rooms are booked, and those restaurants are full, and the city does very well, and the businessmen in this town do very well from that event, unlike the Rotary event, which is a great event and does great work, but it's just a different purpose.
Troy, could you tell us approximately how many people were here last year for the Seafood Festival?
There was over 250,000 people here last year, and we got a little too many people. Our advertising worked a little too well. And then I was there too with you, and it was packed. And it was like, I don't really like this. So we're trying to bring it down a little, and and as Sonny said, we're trying to do quality over quantity. We're trying to stick to local seafood, and we're trying to make it a real festival about Madeira Beach and the Gulf beaches, and not just bring in a bunch of carpetbaggers from everywhere and have these vendors who don't really belong here. So we're really working on making it a quality event rather than just a giant event like Woodstock. So that's the main difference.
Okay. Okay, let's start from the beginning so this doesn't look like I'm totally out of my element here, okay? What we've done in the past, in the past 3 years that I've been here, is we've billed this, the Johns Pass Village Association a certain amount of money based on hard costs that they've used. We've always waived their parking, but we've never, well, I'm not gonna say we never have. Prior to me being here, I'm not sure if the costs were waived or not. But in the last 3 years, last year they gave us $9,000 for their hard costs, okay? We calculated in, the bill that we gave them last year was about $38,000. I'm not really sure exactly where a lot of that, the parking revenue is about $22,000 of that. I'm not sure where the parking revenue really kind of situated out into that. Terry, to go to your point though, the numbers the parking revenue is based on is similar weekends in September and all the way October through that point. So there is lost revenue, if we want to call it lost revenue. But honestly, it's not lost from our budget because we've never projected it before, so we're not taking anything out of our budget for it. My personal opinion is they need to pay their hard costs, okay? We shouldn't be, we can give them the parking lots. I think that's really a fair thing in order to do, in order to make the festival work. As far as the hard costs, as far as Dave's guys being out there running to the dump with the different dumpsters and the people that we have on the streets that are working, and EMT and fire and the people that we have working there, that should come out of their budget and that should be paid to us. So to ask for the large sum, I don't think that doesn't work for me personally, but I don't make that decision. We've increased the amount of money that they've given us over the 3 years I've been here. This year, we have put a number at $10,000, which is broken down. The estimate I have in front of me is a little over 10,000, but there's actually a mistake in one of them that wasn't corrected on this. I apologize, I was out last week and I didn't make a correction to this. But that's my 2 cents on it. It's not, this isn't, hey, let's roll out the red carpet and let's do it. I do think that, they use our community policing officers. They do buy, look, and they do a great event, and they do spend a lot of money on extra police. They do spend a lot of money getting this thing situated the right way. I just didn't want it to come across that we weren't on top of this. We've been on top of this for a while, and I was kind of surprised to hear them asking for the whole thing today. That wasn't discussed in our last meeting, so that's all I got to say. Anybody?
Have they paid the application fee and the deposit?
I haven't seen the application yet, but that's not uncommon. It's July. The festival's not until the end of October.
I'm not even supposed to be looking at them unless we have an application.
Right now, you're not looking at them at all, Commissioner.
Well, that's what our ordinance says. We must have the application before we look
Right.
at the event.
You're right.
Actually, here's your application.
The application there? Okay. I figured it was. I just didn't have it with me.
When does this part of the application get filled out?
We sign it, normally, I introduce it at a department head meeting and we fill it out. It's usually, depending on when we get it, 60 to 90 days before the event. I want to keep it fresh on everybody's mind too, and then we can also have meetings with the people throwing the event to make sure that they're covering all the different things. For example, when our sheriffs sign off on it, that means they've had a meeting with them in order to coordinate all of the additional security that they're going to need. They've already had that preliminary meeting, so I think that they're pretty much all set as far as what they're doing. So that can be signed off on now by us. It's just a matter of getting in front of everybody.
Anyone have any questions?
So now you just want the breakdown for 27,000, is that right?
Right.
Okay, then once we see where, because she mentioned the sign, the new sign they put up. That doesn't really have anything to do with the Seafood Festival itself. It's something they added. I mean, we could say we put $100,000 in it because we just put lights in the past for $103,000, something like that.
Sorry?
Wasn't it about $103,000 we just
The lights?
spent on the lights?
Dave, how much the lights in the past?
300-some thousand.
300-something thousand. Okay, so it's not like we are not giving to the pass itself on top of everything else.
We're on the same page, Commissioner.
Right. And what, they just did something to the dock? They put speakers in or in the boardwalk? You put new speakers
We
or
put,
something? Or going to?
we are installing all new bollard lights on the boardwalk.
With speakers in them or something? Wouldn't
They
that-
will have speakers in them, yes.
Yeah. So it's not like we're neglecting the pass and not paying our fair share of what goes on down there. And we know what the pass brings to the city.
The lights were done with their grant money though, right? The grant money that we got?
No, it wasn't all grant money.
Yeah.
Was it all?
Every dime.
It was a state appropriation, yes, it was.
So that didn't cost the city anything.
Anyone else? Thank you, Doug.
Or 41, 129th Avenue. I also think festivals are great. I think we've had lots of them in Madeira Beach, and I think they've been quite successful, a lot of them. I do think that the festivals should pay for themselves. I'm a citizen, and I disagree with using taxpayer dollars, especially that we found ourselves in such a situation in the last 5 years with all the money that we owe. I think the idea of paying with any kind of taxpayer dollars, whether it's in kind or money itself, is wrong. I've been involved probably from the 36 seafood festivals, I've probably been involved in at least 10 to 15. I've seen the operations from all sides. I wish you certainly luck in getting a revenue statement, a complete one, and a complete expenses. We've tried to achieve that many times over the years, citizens have, and we've never been successful with City Hall in getting revenues. I would like to also state that everybody talks about the restaurants being full and the hotels being full, and I think that's excellent, and I think it does bring people. But I'd also like to let everyone know, if you don't already know, that tax dollars do not get into the city revenues by means of hotel rooms and fully used restaurants. They get in there based on the total population of Madeira Beach, which is around 3,600 people. There is a very, very small amount that is distributed based on a formula by the county to give a very small amount back into the city coffers. So I hope you'll be very successful and insist on all of the documentation that you need to make this a successful event as well.
else? Okay, we'll end the public comment on that issue. Next, we have a 911 committee presentation. Dee Lay is here.
Can you hear me? Yes. Thanks for listening to us today. My name is Dee Lay. I live at 724 Sunset Cove, Madeira Beach. I'm here today representing the 9/11 Memorial Preservation Team. On the team with me is Steve Kochek, Guy Critelli, Robin Stack, me, and Susan Haywood, daughter of Ken Margraf, who was an original member. And with me today for later presentation is Ken Donofrio, president of Idea Network. The entire focus of our team is the completion, the preservation, and the promotion of the 9/11 Memorial in Madeira Beach. And we're here today especially for completion, promotion, and the financial aspects necessary to go forward. The only piece of the original 9/11 architectural plans that has not been completed is the planter area, or what I'm calling Heroes Garden. It is meant to show by a visual graph the number of first responders who's died on 9/11/01. Firefighters, Port Authority, New York Police Department, EMTs. You can see that by the graph on there, I hope, because I don't hope you can see it. It's kind of small, and it's on the right-hand side of the planter, and it's 4 long strips. It also would require a plaque to explain the graph, and you can see that wording on the small piece of paper on top of the graph. This needs to be done as soon as possible so we can photograph the entire site for the brochures, and we are planning for the promotion. So I don't know if you need any questions or if you see what I'm talking about on that graph. Okay. Talking about the promotional brochures that we're planning. Oh, the second page is the cost of that material that he needs for the planter. And the third page is the cost for what we need for the brochures. Regarding promotion, we have a hidden treasure here in Madeira Beach called the 9/11 Memorial. We want the world to know what a special place this is. From the beginning, it was meant to be a learning place for the next generation. And we want to promote in a positive way a major attribute of our city. This is a unique and powerful image of the character of the people of this city. I'm going to introduce Ken Donofrio. He's president of Idea Network, and he's going to show you some of the pictures we plan and tell you about the brochure we're planning.
Ken Donofrio, 44-year resident of Madeira Beach, 718 Sunset Cove. I'm honored and humbled to be able to participate in the promotion of the 9/11 Memorial, and myself and my photographer are donating ourselves, our time, so that means no cost to the city. And what we want to do is we want to do exactly what Dee and the committee want, and that is to create a brochure that is really a guide and an educational tool that can be used as a promotion piece and on site as almost like a walking guide. Now, we don't have a real layout for you to show you, but we do have the first stage of our pictures taken. So, and I'm not sure if whether your husband had shown you some of the initial shots,
No.
but I'm hoping I can approach and let you guys
Certainly.
look at our first photo session. Now, Mike, and you can pass this around, you can swipe left and right.
Okay.
We were going to project these, but we didn't think it would do it justice because you really have to see them in high res to appreciate them. Mike Ramos, who is my photographer, who's donating his time, is also the photographer for the Lightning and Tampa General Hospital. He works with several large agencies in town, and his work is incredible. And we are very fortunate to have him, and these pictures that we've taken for this first shot have been very well received. We were able to catch the wall of life with the 3,000 lights in a beautiful sunset and a beautiful blue sky behind it. And we also took a lot of different day shots, but we do need to take a few more shots, which we're gonna wait to do when the Heroes Garden is completed. So there is a possibility we're throwing it back and forth right now. We may create a version of the brochure and just mock the Heroes Garden or not have a focus on that particular part, and then when we do a reprint, add the actual real photos, or just wait until the Heroes Garden is completed, depending on the timeline. So that's kind of what we're waiting for before we decide to start the layout. If it's going to take a little bit longer, we'll do a layout that has a mock or has the intention of showing it. Maybe I'll Photoshop it. But otherwise, we'll try to do the whole thing so it's complete. Now, once the brochure is done, I'm going to work with Dee to be able to go to schools, elementary schools, and promote the brochure, or promote the memorial, and then also work with her to get the brochures out to like Chamber of Commerce and some of the other tourist type of outlets and channels. And that's about it right now. I mean, I'm very, like I said, very excited to be able to help them. I think the cause is great. I do believe it's a treasure to the city. And you know, like I said, I've known Dewey, who was one of the original ideas. He had the original idea, and also I've also been family friends with Pat Shantz, and basically my dad even served with her on the Board of Commissions a long time ago, the Board of Adjustments, as it was called back then. So, but thank you very much for my time. Please take a look at the pictures, and once we are finished with the brochure and it is completed, I will provide those pictures for the city to use however they want. We'll give you high-resolution copies of those. Okay?
Thank you. The pictures are beautiful.
Sure, thank you.
And the brochure will be the size of a number. It's a gatefold, he calls it. It would end up being the size of a number 10 envelope, so it could be mailed out. And Kenny stole my thing about the first idea is first send it to school principals to set up schedules for lectures, but more importantly, field trips to the 9/11 site. We would distribute brochures to city residents and visitors, including school children who attend lectures, so they know what happened on 9/11/01. I'm surprised to find out it is not in the school curriculum. One of the more important promotional places is our own Madeira Beach Treasure Island Chamber of Commerce, as well as other surrounding cities' chambers. Currently, there is nothing in the visitor's booklet about of course these were printed some time ago, about the 9/11 memorial. Other places would be City Hall, AAA destinations, Beacon newspaper, etc. And what Ken didn't mention, but all our promotional material, anything we do, we have a path to donations. I don't know if you have any question about the brochures, but just to end with, the cost of printing also is in your packet. Like Kenny said, he is donating his time to set it up. He's a professional. He works in Pinellas County, Hillsborough County, all over the country, really. And as far as funding goes, I have to say here, I don't know how it works. I want to do what the city wants us to do. I want to complete this. We realize there is always going to be an ongoing upkeep and maintenance issues that the city has been doing. The city needs to resolve that, and we have no control over what their maintenance is. We don't know if that's in our budget. I guess I'm saying here, however you want us to work the money to get this done is what we want to do. And that's about it. Except I also included anonymous letter, or not, it's not anonymous, glowing letter from a visitor here about how he has traveled all over the United States, seen 9/11 memorials, big and small, and ours was completely everything, a responder, a visitor, a survivor would want in one package, and a great deal of solace for him. So that's I have it.
Would the brochures also be in the actual 911 memorial building?
Yeah, I'm just thinking they should be everywhere, as many places I know. Yes, I was hoping they would be, you know how real estate people put them in a little plastic. I was thinking something like that. Many of the ideas that I have, even with school lectures, it hasn't fleshed out yet because I wanted to present to you. I don't want to go, I'm not going ahead without it, well, your approval.
What exactly are you asking us for?
I'm actually asking to complete the project right now as it is. I think the material that Guy needs is $1,400. That's on there. And to do 10,000 brochures, oh, I didn't bring mine with me. Whatever that second page.
1374, yeah.
That's what I need right now to finish it. However, I don't know how this works, if I'm supposed to put in a budget or a line item or...
Madam Mayor, I may be able to speak to that. I've had several meetings with Ms. Lay, and trust me, this is an issue and a project that's very near and dear to my heart. We do have money that's set aside every year for the maintenance cost of that memorial. And because of the efficiency of Dave Marciano's people that are going over and taking care of that, I think we have money in the budget this year out of that maintenance budget to do what Ms. Lay is asking us to do. That money's in there every year. And in future years, we're going to look at some other different types of funding sources like Ms. Lay was talking about. I think what she's asking for basically is just your recognition and support for the completion of this project.
Yeah, I see, you know, even when I think in my head, sending letters to school principals, there's mailing involved, but where does that come from? I don't know if I have to ask for a little bit of more money than what's on those two pieces of paper.
The way I'm looking at this is like the $1,400 for finishing the project.
Yes.
And then $1,374 for the brochures, well, plus tax and all that.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay. Do we need to make a recommendation or a motion, or what do we need to do here?
Well,
You can't make a motion, this is a workshop, so you can take no action today at today's meeting, it's just for discussion.
Okay.
I think the next step then would be to put it on the next
Yeah, the BOC.
meeting and vote on it then.
And I present it how I'm presenting it now, or just presenting it for... City manager can tell me what I'm supposed to do.
We'll
Yeah.
just work
I'll be
together to get this project completed. She was just looking for your support to let you know what's going on with that project. We do have funds available to make that happen that were dedicated to the 9/11 Memorial maintenance side of the house, but we can do that.
Thanks.
Yes, I think we have a consensus that we would like to support you and we'll just go forward and.
I appreciate that. I think it's a good thing for the city, really. It's more than just money thing.
Have you all stopped all fundraising for it?
Please?
Have you all stopped all fundraising efforts?
Yes,
towards the-
since
Now
my
you're
husband
just-
died.
You depend on the city to support it.
My idea is we're always going to be, everything we print or everything we do should have something, and that's another thing I wanted maybe from the finance. Most people donate online nowadays, credit card. I thought we could open it up that way too, online giving. But I don't know how much that would bring in. I would think that the more it's publicized, the more people would support it. That's what I'm thinking.
Guy, did you want to come up? I had a question about the 1,400. Is that just your materials? That's not your labor? You're donating your labor, or how's that going to work?
9/11 since the first day, since the dirt got cut. And it's a good thing to have this done as soon as possible because the brochure matter. You know, if we have the brochure, so he can put the final thing on it, and the brochure will look even a little bit nicer. So I think if the budget, they have a couple bucks to get the beam done, I go do that myself with no cost to anybody. And it'd be beautiful after. So I think we needed to step it up before the council meeting, for another day. I think today, if it's possible, to go ahead with the $1,400 and get it done. It's no tax on it either.
Can't do it today because we're not allowed to
Okay, well,
do it or vote.
then it's, gotta wait another 2 weeks. But we would like to ask the seafood festival if we can have a table under the tent or whatever, because we might end up have our heads or band or something probably to sell it to them, a donation for the 9/11 to finish, and then whatever else we wanted to do after. Try. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mayor, I think we're just looking for a consensus of support for this project. It is city
Right.
property that will have to be maintained, so that's why we have that maintenance budget already in there. But it is a beautiful memorial to the victims of 9/11.
Good afternoon. Robin Stack, 728 Sunset Cove, Madeira Beach. I'm one of the 2 surviving members of the original ad hoc committee. Nancy Oakley, I believe you voted for me. I know Terry Lister did be on that committee. I can see the committee, the ad hoc committee, almost being reinstated with 3 new members to make sure this stuff is done. And that way we'd have an avenue to do fundraising. I'm not saying it's the only avenue to do, but it's just one. In other words, if the city just doesn't want to spend the money.
Talk into the microphone, please.
I think it's on. Okay. In other words, we were raising money on a regular basis until the thing was built, and the city had said they would repay the money we had used that had not been repaid through other charitable donations. I never saw after that what those donations were or where they went. For instance, there's several festivals that were originally started by the 9/11 committee that continued, but we weren't involved in them anymore. The city manager was. So now we're on to phase 2, this final thing we want to get done. Whether we get it done with money from the budget for maintenance, or whether we have to go out and scare it up to a community, it doesn't matter to me either. I'll do whatever I have to do. Whatever the commission says, hey, Robin, do this, I'm on it. I know that Steve Kochek feels the same way. I'm simply saying there may be a different avenue to do it other than just writing a check. And that'd be something for you guys to decide.
Thank you. You did a lot of work on the original committee. Is there a,
In my opinion, Mr. Lister or Commissioner Lister is one of the nicest things the city's ever done. Because it's going to stand there forever.
again, I agree with you. Is there a national register for 9/11 memorials that we know of? Are we on that national register?
I'm not aware of a national registry, but I will definitely look.
I think if we could get on that would help too. And of course, any type of GoFundMe page works pretty well now. I mean, it really does work pretty well. I know this young man over in England that has that terrible disease that they put a GoFundMe page up and had over $40,000 raised overnight. So if we just, like you say, can get our name out there, get on this registry, and get more interest for the memorial, because it is a wonderful place. It's a great deal. You guys did a good job in the beginning, and I'm sure the city wants to continue to support that as we've supported it in the past.
Any more public comment? Yes.
Debbie Weinstein, 441 129th Avenue. I also think it's a very worthwhile, good project. I would like to just state, to clarify, I'm sure what Robin might have said or anybody else, in July 2012, up until July 2012, efforts were made to get funding, private funding. It was to be a private project. The city was never to be involved. In July of 2012, the city started putting close to 70, I think almost 70 to $100,000 into the project because they could not, because the funds could not be gotten privately, okay? I always felt that this was an improper thing, I reckon, not to do anything with Americanism or the firefighting situation or the horrible event that happened in 2011. I just always felt it was an opening for other organizations to ask also for a monument or something set up within the city, a statue of someone, And so that was my original, feeling about it, that yes, it's a wonderful thing, and it should be, all the money should be obtained with private funds. Since it was not done that way, and since a considerable amount of city money has been put into it, I would hope that y'all would, once again, like anything else that you commissioners should do, is to get some kind of a profit, and obviously it's not a P&L or anything, but to at least understand how much money has been put in, and maybe what can be done to get a grant or private funds or something like that.
Can you take care of that, Walter? Yeah. Thanks.
Anyone else? All right, next we have I'm sorry? Oh, okay. A discussion on parking from Calais, America. Is anybody here?
We have no one here. It was just for the commissioners to discuss this amongst themselves and come up with a consensus of how you'd like this to read when it goes on to the next agenda. And by the way, we are on the 9/11 registry there, Commissioner Wilson.
Fantastic. Thank you, Chief.
Sorry, are they moving this to the next agenda on the parking? Is the parking being sent to the next agenda?
I guess it's,
Ma'am, the lady in the, you left your handbag. Oh, okay, all right.
thank you. All right, so are we discussing whether or not we want to move forward and put it on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. Walters will speak to that.
We're continue to sharpen up our figures and how much it would cost to replace all the machines, and we've got the latest figures from Calais as far as trade-in credit that we would get. So we're still confident that we would still be under the $200,000 that we would budget for this. And also that this new machines would be pay by plate. So it would be driven again, and you heard the presentation, that with the new technology in these new machines, everything would be driven by the plate. And we're also starting early in the process of, normally every year about November, December, we would get new tags or give new parking tags to our residents. We're kind of trying to start that early and trying to get the plate numbers from our residents on a spreadsheet so we can provide that to Calais sometime in October, and they would put those in the machines so that all our residents would be, who gave us the information about their plates, would be in the machines.
Do we currently get the plate numbers or not?
I thought you filled it, when you filled that little thing out.
Yeah, when you fill
You
out
put your plate number on there.
Yeah.
So the information's already there
Yeah,
from years past?
Yes, and it is, and I'm glad it is there, because it's gonna save a whole lot of time.
So we're going stickerless now, next year.
Well, we
Basically.
talked about that this morning. Yeah, for the most part, that's where we're trying to head toward.
Nice.
What happens when,
So this has a lot of benefits to it.
well, what happens when a new person moves to town, to get their information into the system? Is it a delay time, or are the people here at the City Hall going to be able to put that directly in, or how will that work?
If they come into City Hall and fill out the pass, we would update at that point in time. We've also had a meeting this morning that as the citizens of the city come in for other business, we'll also ask them, if they didn't fill out a pass, to provide their plate number as well. So we're trying to be proactive and start that process early in lieu of getting the machines.
Okay, let me add, kind of, from the paperwork that I got, for the 29 machines, we're looking at 161,000, correct?
Yes.
But you're saying that we need to add 3 more machines?
We would probably add about at least 1 more machine, maybe 2, and also, this is just a quote. So, and we also may need some signs, which I just found out about an hour ago. We also may need some signs to put on these machines. so there's an additional cost there. So I still think it's gonna be under, it's still gonna be under 200,000.
Okay. What are we doing with the additional machines? Why are we getting the additional machines?
We may get one as a replacement machine that was kind of recommended by Calais. And also, we were thinking of getting a machine for City Hall as well that we can turn on and off.
Okay, thank you.
So like during events or something, people could pay to park, and we're gonna get the parking out of it over here? Is that the mindset?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you know, probably an example of that would be if there's not a city event, or if the rec center is not having something going on, and the parking lot is being used by people overflowing from Archibald, then it would be turned on at that point.
And how long does it take to get the parking pass into the system? I mean, like if someone comes in and wants a week pass or a monthly pass, how quickly is that?
We will be updating that stuff beyond the initial list that's provided to Calais. We will be updating that information. We can be putting that information in the machines ourselves. So it would be within a day.
Currently, when you need a parking pass, you come to City Hall and they punch your information in and hand you the parking pass.
Right.
They're gonna do the same thing. As soon as they punch that information in, it will upload to the system.
All right, so it'll be available to them right away?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's all.
But just with the few residents that came in front of us the other day, they seem like they like the old system of putting a sticker in their car as opposed to having to get out and punch their number in and into the machine. Is that not an option? And can you tell me the cost of the sticker program? I know you probably can't off the top of your head. Tell me how much it costs the city to provide those stickers?
Yeah, that was discussed this morning. It's about $2,000.
Right. Okay.
And we talked this morning about maybe assessing a small fee. Sometimes people come in and purchase more than one ticket or one pass.
Well, I'm sure they want more than one. But they have to live here and the city has to be registered and the vehicle has to be registered to that address. Everybody wants more than one pass. We don't always give them that, do we?
There have been on occasion where they have asked for additional passes and we've provided it.
Again, we don't have a number. I know we don't have a number. I guess we could get as many as they want, but you know, it becomes to a point where you know they're not giving it just to family members, they're giving it to somebody else. I mean,
Yeah.
you gotta have a.
In the past, that was
height.
exactly what was happening. There was multiple passes being issued out to residents.
Well-
This will eliminate a lot of that problem simply because you're gonna have to assign a pass or a plate number to that pass.
I believe in our last union negotiations with the fire union that they actually get free parking
Yes,
in the
sir,
city
they
of
do.
Deer Beach.
Absolutely do.
They
And
don't
if they
live
do
here.
in the future, they're going to have to assign a plate number to it. So it won't be just for them or somebody they hand the pass off to.
Right.
It'll have to be that tag number in that parking place. Yes, sir.
Again, I think you're gonna get some pushback from some people who are used to the thing up in the corner, because they just park and walk away from their vehicle. They don't have to do anything else. It's easier for them.
It's still going to be the same way, isn't it?
No, ma'am. Not from what I understand, Madam Mayor. I think it's gonna be more labor intensive. You're gonna have to get out of your vehicle, you gotta go to the machine, you have to punch your number in. And
No, that's not correct.
Okay.
It's, if you're a resident here and your license plate's in there with their machine, they're gonna be able to click it and say, oh, resident, okay, move on to the next car.
Whose receipt?
Say again, please?
Whose receipt?
They're going to go up to your car and look at your tag and be able to tell right
Yeah,
away.
with their
Whether
scanner.
you're a
Whatever
resident or
equipment
paying
they
cash
have.
for it, right?
Right.
And I think a lot of the feedback we got last time was from just anybody who had to go up and pay for parking, thought they were also going to have to remember their tag number. And I don't believe that's true. I mean, there's an option to do it that way, but they don't have to. So that's not really, shouldn't be
Again, I
an
didn't have
issue.
any
I think
paperwork
they
for,
do have to know their tag number.
I didn't have any paperwork in here for Cali at all. Do you have paperwork, John? What do you have?
No.
No.
I think he's going off, this came off of the last one when they
Oh,
came
okay.
up and did the presentation.
Yeah, I could use a bit more of an input from
We
Kelly.
can get that to you.
Yeah, and of course, you're gonna have to give me a specific number,
Yes, sir.
Walter.
That information is the same information that you got last time when Callie came in and made that presentation.
Yeah.
But we'll get that for you again, no problem.
Perfect.
Any more from the commission? Public comment.
Six Miramar, I just have a question. You know, okay, with that,
Can you talk into the mic?
oops, okay, you would have it registered by the tag. So the parking attendant would walk around to the front of the cars to see if there's a ticket in the front, and if there's not a ticket, then they're gonna walk around back, shoot the tag, see if it's legit, they should, whether they should or shouldn't, then walk around to the front of the car, put another tag on, right? Is that how it works? How does it work? I'm not understanding it.
They're just gonna go to the tag.
Okay, so what about when they're in our parking lot? Okay, if, when the people, our guests, go to the parking lots and they go up to the machines to pay for their parking, will they still put the ticket on their dashboard?
I believe that's an option.
I don't think
Yeah,
they are.
it's an option.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's what the lady said last time. That's an option. If you just want to put your license plate number in, you don't have to put a tag or a sticker or piece of paper on your dashboard. You know, you can just put your tag number in, and when she comes by, the machine will tell her that person has paid for 2 hours or 5 hours or whatever, the full day. If they don't want to do that, then they can print out the tag, yes, and then it would go on the
So
dashboard.
so there's options and y'all will decide.
Yes.
I was just curious on how it was gonna work, so, okay. Oh, and just one other little thing. I know that it's being on the beach, I'm the GM of Snack Shack. The machines go down all the time, so we gotta remember more electronics.
That's why we're buying the new ones.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean,
Can you talk in the mic?
you buy a new computer, it still goes down at times too. You know, I mean, I'm not saying it negative-wise, but we just need to think about that also. Okay?
You know, again, we did talk about machines being at the beach, and Representative Calais did indicate the wear and tear that it takes, that these machines take out here. You know, with the wind, sand, and the rain and all that stuff, it's just very abusive to the machines.
They mentioned that we can get plastic covers or some kind of covers for them in extreme weather. Do we know how much that would cost, if it'd be worthwhile?
I'm not sure, I can find out about that.
Any other public comment? All right, next we have a presentation from the Treasure Island and Madeira Beach Chamber of Commerce. Missy Hahn.
You can hear me now? All right. Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, and our guests in TV land. As the City Commission plans a 2017-18 budget, the Treasure Island and Madeira Beach Chamber of Commerce requests the continued inclusion in support of our visitor guide and activities in support of the city's business, and with respect to our residential community, which also participates and benefits from this. I did bring you a copy of our vacation guide. This is an old one. We're getting ready to sell a new one. But I'm here actually just to make sure that if you have any questions, or I didn't want to assume, so I'm here to answer any of your questions. I did put in the visitor guide a copy of the latest press release. We have an event coming up August 19th, and I do hope that you will all attend. And I put in our membership information and our EPIC information, and I also brought with me Greg Tong, who is the chairman of the Treasure Island and Madeira Beach Chamber for 2017. Any questions? No? I'll take that as a good sign.
It's a good sign.
All right. Thank you so much for your time and for coming to our events and supporting the Chamber. We like the partnership. I think it's going well and want to continue that partnership. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the public? All right, going forward, we have Marcy Forbes here to talk to us about the FEMA grants. This is
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Marcy Forbes, and I'm with Doolin Associates. And the moment you guys saw how thick your packet was, you probably knew I was on the agenda. I provided you guys with several documents. The first topic that I wanted to speak to you guys about is the CRS certification and the FEMA CAV that we had recently. We had a staff meeting, and this was one of the topics that I discussed with all the department heads. And the reason that I'm speaking to you on behalf of this topic is because around June or July of 2015, your community development person and the floodplain administrator had a sudden leave of absence. So I got put here to help review permits and keep that stuff afloat and moving. Along with that, other questions started to arise on other topics that needed to be addressed and looked into. And one of them was the CRS. So I inherited that a little bit to try and keep it moving for the city. So that's why you currently don't have a floodplain administrator or a community development director. So that's why I'm here speaking to you on behalf of this. I included a brief background on this, as well as the letters that came from FEMA and the city's response letters. I did not include all the attachments because it's a lot of information, but it is available for public viewing. I made sure a copy is up front at the volunteer desk, if anybody's interested. So you guys have probably had the opportunity to read the letters, look at the background. The important thing is the city had a community assistance visit back in 2016, and that's done by FEMA. So they'll come and visit a city to kind of help address some of maybe the issues going on or in preparation for their CRS visit. And during this visit, there were several topics identified to which the city has responded to and addressed accordingly. And we're currently in a position where we're just waiting back from FEMA to hear their response and maybe some corrective actions that they're going to recommend for the city. It was important to me to get Chief O'Neill and Dave Marsicano and all those guys kind of up to speed on this topic. So that's why you're seeing it here now. It's mainly just an informative topic to let you guys, know a little bit about it and ask any questions that I may be able to answer.
I've got a lot of questions. Got a lot of them. First off, in here, excuse me, I'm sorry. You talk about, there's like places that says this is complete, but you're not showing us what the, where's the record showing this has been complete? And I'm on page 2. It says page 2 at the top. There's also areas in here where I don't know what's been done. And the reason I'm asking the questions, I spent over an hour yesterday on the phone with Mr. Brown from FEMA. And he was saying a lot of things that can happen to the city if we don't get all these things corrected and corrected correctly. Such as we would lose the 20% rating and et cetera, et cetera. But from this paperwork here, it's not showing me what's been completed, what hasn't been completed. I don't understand why the building inspector passed buildings that did not meet FEMA code, and that's part of the problem that's in here. And this goes back to like 2016, 2015 time frame. And it was before the commission in 2016. It came before the commission in October, correct? And basically, nothing or very little has been done from the previous commission to now, or a lot of things are still missing that Mr. Brown said that he has not received or he's asking for. And I guess my question is, the bottom line is, he's saying, he'll work with us whatever way, but we've got to show him we're making progress. that we're doing these things. He was saying to me that, we need to be sending certified letters out to every homeowner that's in violation, and the steps we have to take from there. And then if they don't respond, what our next step is the city, we take them to court, et cetera, et cetera. I don't see any of that being done or being followed through on here. I guess what I'm asking is, and this is way over my head, I'll be very, very honest with you, this is very, I've probably read this thing 50 times and still do not understand it all. I don't know if we need to bring someone in that can really explain to us what the heck is going on here. So if we tell our residents that they're going to lose their rating and their insurance is going to go through the ceiling, they're going to come after our heads. And I would not blame them at all, because I'd be one of them leading the charge. But what do we need to do to get these things fixed? That's what we have to find out.
That's the correct situation. So the pages 1 through 7 that you're referring to, that you're probably not seeing the follow-up, it's the attachments that I refer to, not providing you guys with, because it's literally several inches thick. Those are available for review. Several of these were just corrective action measures that the city had to take with regards to the elevation certificates being filled out correctly, and some of those items. Some of these were easy fixes, and the city has done those. Some of them are not easy fixes. When in late 2016, when the visit was conducted, it was conducted in September. Michelle Orton was was sitting in this position for the floodplain administrator, and she worked to. This is the response to that 7-page letter. So this is all the documentation that we've provided to FEMA. I did speak with Collis. The one additional item he was looking for was he wanted our previous floodplain ordinance. We had provided him with our new one from 2016. So I sent him the link to that this morning. He had requested that yesterday, so I responded with that this morning. He did mention, and he said this will be moving forward. This will be part of their comments. They will look for the corrective action plan from the city as to how we not, have these things happen again. And when you were talking about the certified letters being sent to the homeowners, that too will be in response to their letter. So ultimately, they're going to issue a letter based on all the information we've provided them. Based on what we tell them, and if we say, we permitted this structure because of A, B, and C, then he may go, oh, okay, I see how this was done, and that's okay. Or he may say, this isn't really what FEMA wants. Here's what we'd like the city to do. So once we get that feedback from them, then that's when we would start initiating some of the letters that you're talking about and move forward the next stage, civil action, to your point. The last straw, if we can't get any help from the homeowners to become compliant, and this is the last one, is there is the option to put what they call a 1316 on the property, which denies it flood insurance in perpetuity until it's brought into floodplain compliance. That is a last resort effort. But those are options for municipalities, and you would take that so that you as a municipality and all the residents would not take a hit. You would basically put that property on its own. It would get that, I don't know what you want to call it, but that, penalty on it, and that would show, that would take it away from all of the city getting it. It would just be that one property would incur that consequence.
And if I understand what he said to me, if they do the 1360, is that what the number was,
1316.
Yeah. I'm sorry. If they do the 1360, the first thing that happens is the mortgage company calls total payment on the mortgage, right? Is what he said, and then they would not be insurable until all those issues are corrected.
I've never had to do that, nor have I talked to anybody who's had to do it. But once it's done, I do believe you record it with the property appraiser's office. How their mortgage bank would ultimately find out if it's existing, I'm not sure. But for sure, when you went to resell it, and if somebody wanted to finance the property, it would definitely be a flag then. But maybe you can speak more to that aspect of it.
If the 1360 is placed, as Marcy said, it would be in perpetuity. It runs with the land. So it would not allow, when you have to renew your flood insurance every year, it would not allow them to renew it. It would not allow them to secure new flood insurance if there was a new owner on the property, when they did a title search, that would come up. When it is publicly recorded, we are not, I do not believe we are required to notify any mortgagees on the property, but we certainly can send a courtesy letter and let them know if we can find that information. But I do not believe the city is required to do that. Once you record it with the county, it is then now for all the public to see. So it's there. If anyone does a title search, they'll see that that property is not insurable unless it comes into compliance.
Okay, I guess part of my question also is, you know, how did we end up issuing COs for these properties when they're not in compliance, you know?
And that's, you know, that's the question, and I think, and that was brought up during Collis's visit, and we as a city do have to figure out how we close the gap between once the permit is reviewed and once the CO is issued, to make sure that not only are the, you know, Florida Building Code items being inspected and passed, but that we're also keeping our eyes on the ball of the valuation of the remodel and making sure that they don't exceed it. I have spoke with Erica, and the city does have teeth with having our building official as the authority having jurisdiction. If we feel that you've gone over your valuation, we do have the ability to put a stop work order on it, request additional information from the contractor, and maybe ask for receipts, invoices, things like that. The boots on the ground issue with the FEMA 50% rule is you have somebody come in who's pulling a permit on their home. They're going to do an addition or a remodel. They're going to tell you the valuation is X amount of dollars. It's always going to be below the dollar valuation that they could spend. Then when the contractor goes into construction, it's sometimes difficult to walk out on a project and decide if somebody spent $37,000 or $87,000. So that's the struggle that Madeira Beach has had, and I do know it's a struggle with a lot of communities. We're not in any way in isolation. For me, looking in, I think the true responsibility comes down to us being able to hold the contractors accountable for the valuations they supply the city with. If you're a contractor who does not supply a realistic valuation on a project, and it puts us as a city in jeopardy of losing our flood insurance discount, I want to be able to hold you liable. You're the professional that I'm counting on to provide me with a valuation at the end of the day that meets our, you know, guidelines. So there is a disconnect, and we will create a plan. The city's goal is to create a plan that closes that, such that when you're doing inspection, not only is the inspector looking at electrical, plumbing, life safety, he's also vividly aware of the valuation that's been assigned this permit, and he can start looking at that as well.
How do we handle someone comes in at, let's say, 40% of the market value for, you know, fixing their home, and then right after they turn around and come out again with another 40%, you know, that may be walking around the law, you know, might be legal, I guess, I don't know, you know, but it's, yeah. So.
And you're right, and that's what happens too, is a lot, and the other issue too is if you hop from Madeira Beach to Clearwater to Reddington, the local codes govern that. FEMA basically leaves it up at a federal level to the individual municipalities to come up with their ordinance that governs that. In response to the CAV visit, Michelle redid the floodplain ordinance, and in that she included a caveat that your 50% valuation was held to a 1-year time frame from the date that you pull the permit. So if I come in and pull a permit and I can spend $50,000 and I pull a permit for 47, I finish it and close it out. 1 year from the date that I originally pulled that, I can then come back, even with a new valuation of my property because I've improved it, and then I can spend another 50%. Some municipalities, I heard Hillsborough County has a 5-year period. So some municipalities have, you know, made it more difficult and tried to find ways. There's a fine line because you want people to be able to rehab their properties and improve them. And there's just that fine line between, you know, recognizing the reasonability of that and then enforcing the FEMA 50% rule and being reasonable around that.
Do any of these properties, you know, the latest one's the 2016-11, which was signed in September of 16, that ordinance. do any of these houses or properties fall under the previous ordinance? Did they start work under the previous ordinance?
They all started work under the previous ordinance. Yeah, they were all started.
Basically, all the construction would go under that ordinance, not the new ordinance then?
That is correct.
I think where we need to see is, there's like 15 different addresses in this one document. It's dated February 2nd, 2017. And one of the addresses said that the CO was issued on 6/3/16, but this document comes out in February 17, but then it said the corrective action was to provide the EC based on finished construction. That's fine, but we don't know what the status is of any of these at this date and time. And why is it saying provide based on finished when it got finished on 6/3/16? The whole thing doesn't flow. And that's the letter that was written to Travis Palladino, a FEMA letter dated February 2nd, 2017. So we just need to know the status of the real-time status, because this letter's not telling us anything.
Right, and the real-time status is basically they've requested additional information, and we've supplied all of that to them. So the homes are permitted as they were permitted. Whatever their permit file looks like is the status of them. There's been no consequences levied against any of the properties in here, with the exception of a few that we could correct. There was a propane tank that we were able to have Suburban Propane easily go out and fix. But as far as some of the residential issues with the substantial improvements, those basically, the information from those has been provided to FEMA as requested, and the status is we are waiting on their response.
That's what we need to hear.
And I apologize, I tried to get that in the background, that we were, as of this date, they had everything, and we were kind of in a holding pattern waiting for their response.
There's nothing more we can do right now to get the homeowners to do the right thing.
Not with the individual homeowners. In the background, the city can begin to formulate a plan that helps prevent this from happening in the future. And I do know that that is what Collis will be looking for, is something that closes that gap. And in having met with Eric, I do think we can come up with something that is legally binding and legally enforceable on behalf of the city that helps us, or the building official, in these cases.
I guess the commission needs to not move this forward at the next BOC. I think we need to wait until the next workshop and hopefully have the letter from FEMA at that time on what their recommendations are before we act on this. Right now, there's too many variables out there for this, and we just don't know. We don't have like Ms. Oakley said, we don't have which houses have been completed. We need to get a kind of list of that, which ones are still standing out there that we're having problems with. And for me personally, I think I need to do more research and talking to these people from FEMA and stuff like that to get a better understanding of this. Because even talking to Mr. Brown for an hour plus yesterday, I think sometimes I got more confused than less confused, He was very helpful, don't get me wrong. He was very, very helpful. But it's like, this could be a big strike against the city if we don't do it right,
Right, and that's more or less what this topic was about, was to make sure it was on the forefront, that the new commissioners were aware, and bringing in the acting city manager. So I definitely wanted to make sure that that was on the forefront for everybody.
I don't have any other questions.
So just quickly, Marcia, all of these properties that we're discussing have multiple flood on the property, and they're being given money by FEMA. Is that what we're doing here?
No, that's the next topic will be FEMA grants. The majority, all of these are not FEMA grant related. These are all individual homeowners doing remodeling work, or whatever the topic was, but specifically to substantial improvements or not substantial. It's just homeowner money spent.
Thank you.
We are already looking forward, trying to address some of these issues. I met with Marcy and with Mr. Carrier concerning this. Our planning director position has been vacant for some time, and we're reevaluating that, re-advertising for that position. We're also looking at setting a policy in place to give the current building official the responsibility and the obligation to shut down these structures when we suspect them to be exceeding what they're being permitted for.
And
So-
he's done that. Recently, there was a building at the end of my street that he shut down. He put a stop work order on because they put 7 or 8 windows in the bottom and they'd pulled a permit for 1 window. So all of that's being done
Yeah.
as we speak.
A lot of that is being done, but a lot of it we have missed. We've got 5 properties now that are currently what we were concerned about, and we are waiting on that letter to come back from FEMA. We just wanted this to be in the forefront so you were aware of it, so there's no surprises in the future if something does transpire that we have to do something significant with these properties. Thank you.
Next topic. It's FEMA again. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the FEMA grants. This is the 2015 cycle. These grants were written in 2015 and have just recently, the contract has been sent to the city indicating that we will be awarded these 6 properties for mitigation reconstruction. There are 3 ways you can work with your property under the FMA grant. There's mitigation reconstruction, acquisition, and elevation. All of these 6 have been awarded as mitigation reconstruction, which is knock down and rebuild. The city currently has 9 other properties that are basically actively within the grant system and have been awarded and executed at a variety of levels. Based on having managed those FEMA grants, I wanted to bring this contract before you guys workshop it, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about it. What the city of Madeira Beach is experiencing with these grants is unrealistic construction budgets. These homeowners are allotted a limited square footage and a limited construction budget. And when I say limited, I mean period. FEMA's going to give, in most cases, $150 grand towards the actual construction. The rest of the estimated funds come from the homeowner. So when the grants were written, they ran up with some per square footage costs that they submitted, and they came up with these valuations. That was 2015. The valuations aren't supporting the current market. What I'm finding is per square foot to rebuild a home from the ground up is much more expensive than what you see the homeowners being awarded. And the opportunity to get a budget increase, and mind you, again, the budget increase is only allowing the homeowner to spend more money, is not really supported in the 2015 grant cycle. The benefit cost analysis for this was very low, right around 1, which is the lowest they really allow it to go. So the monies you see before you are pretty steadfast dollar figures that the homeowners will be absolutely forced to adhere to. Currently, I have 1 property, had an extremely low valuation. Their construction, they were part of the 2014 grant cycle, and it's been an emotional roller coaster. I'm having the limited spend and getting 90% of your construction done and recognizing that you only have a few $1,000s more and there's no more money you can spend is gut-wrenching for her. And I just felt like at the end of the day, it's your decision, whether to move forward and execute a contract. But I wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of how the grants are enforced, how the monies is viewed, and what the city's responsibility is. And the city's responsibility is full enforcement. They expect you to adhere to the square footage, which is the easier part of this. But it's the finances that make it more difficult, kind of going back to our FEMA 50% situation. If you have a contractor who's saying, I can totally build you a house for $178,000. If you could build a house here on the water for $178,000, I mean, so these aren't realistic numbers, and I would be doing a disservice to the homeowners who are about ready to level their homes and to the city if we didn't have an open conversation around this. From the homeowner's perspective, they entered into this grant in 2015, and some of them have been chomping at the bit, and I hear from them every 3 months. Do you know yet? Do you know yet? We're excited. We don't want to replace our roof yet until we know what's going to happen. And so from their perspective, they want to jump in and make it happen. They know a contractor who can do it. And so it's hard to tell them no. It's hard to sit there and say, it just doesn't work right now in this market. Timber costs are going up. So I have to look at all of that as I stand here before you and as I meet with the homeowners. Let's say some homeowner says, I can build it for $170 and they spend $300. FEMA comes down to close out the grant. They look at it. they could very easily say, I don't believe you built this for this much money. We want our money back. And we've already paid out the homeowners, and they've already reimbursed us. So then the city's left in an awkward situation where FEMA may ask for their money back. So at the end of the day, without a better valuation for construction, these grants make me very nervous, for lack of a better description, for the homeowners as well as the city.
So you're saying that the city could be liable for this, possibly this money?
The city is 100% liable.
So,
So you're saying we should stop getting FEMA grants?
There are a lot of municipalities who do not participate, and this is why. If, you know, if they're in the future, I know they revamped from years ago and they tried to correct, so here's where we're at. They may revamp, they may rewrite them, they may make them more homeowner friendly. But, and I did let the homeowners know in this cycle, so everybody you see listed here, I either phoned or was able to send an email to. We had the staff meeting last Thursday, so I didn't have a ton of time to let everybody know, but they all do know. I encouraged them, if they wanted to attend this workshop, or attend the BOC meeting that it may or may not be discussed at, you guys will let me know now, or send an email that I would make sure was read into public record. I definitely want to make sure their voice was heard too, so that you heard both sides of it. But, so.
this is run through state, not state FEMA, not national FEMA, correct?
What happens is it's a reimbursable grant, so it's kind of trickled down. They come from FEMA to the states. So in our particular case, they're awarded to FDEM. FDEM is awarded all of these grants, and the grants are specific to municipalities like us. So when FDM is awarded the grants, then they go through and look, okay, we were awarded the grants based on these, and we would be one of them. So it kind of trickles down, and so everybody's responsible for it. The federal issues it to the state. State's responsible for everything in the state of Florida. Then they issue it to the municipality. The municipality is responsible for everything within their municipality. So, and it's reimbursable. So the homeowners cut the check, they submit the invoice and proof of payment to the city, then the city cuts them a check, then we take all that proof of payment that we made it, then we submit it to the state, they reimburse us, and I'm assuming the state kicks it up to FEMA.
And that's Kathleen Marshall that handles that for the state, isn't it? Up in Tallahassee.
Kathleen Marshall's not, I've worked with Susan Harris Council and Pamela Price. So those are my two contacts for the FDEM grants. Yep, that's the project manager. Susan Harris Council is my direct project manager.
Thank you.
One last thing. I understand you're leaving. This is your last week. Good luck on your future endeavors. We will miss you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have,
You going on public comment?
oh, I'm sorry, public comment. Thank you.
Yes.
My name is Jean Farnan. I live at 574 Johns Pass Avenue. And I find it interesting that the city is in trouble about permits they issued when the city does not even do anything about properties that have no permits and that are in violation of our ordinances. And there's a property on my street that the city's been well aware when all the construction was going on constantly, and has done nothing. So I would imagine that it's a selective process for the permits to be, and our ordinances to be enforced. But this property has jutted out, you know, past the waterfront line. And, you know, these are the things that put us in danger for flood insurance, but our city does nothing. our building department does nothing.
Anyone else?
John's Pass Avenue.
All right, going forward with special event approval.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I just wanted more of an informational type process here to let you know that, we still need to look forward if we're going to change the special event permitting process. We need to keep that in the forefront. We've got a couple of these that have already been approved. The one for the Mad Beach Block Party, which is after the first of the year. But that event has zero impact basically to the city, and there will be a $1,000 donation going back to the rec department. The last one, C, the Sunset Concert Series, that's the one that we had talked about previously in one of our meetings. That's a private event on private property. The one that will be coming up on the next agenda will be the Old Salts Fishing Tournament, or the Lou Tournament. And they're actually going to be requesting to have some fees waived. I didn't feel comfortable approving that, and that will be coming before you at your next commission meeting.
Okay.
Okay?
Chief, you gave me a list of all the events from now to the end of the year. But what's missing on here is, do they have permits? Who's got permits? Who doesn't have permits? If I could get that addition to this, just from this point forward, it's no use going back, but from this point to the end of the year, I'd appreciate that.
If they're on that list, they should have a permit, and if they don't, it's one of the typical programs we normally have, and they possibly have not submitted their permits yet, but we can update that for you.
I appreciate it. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
In the Madeira Way event that happens, on Wednesday,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
market thing,
Yes, ma'am.
I think that doesn't even need, it should be just taken off the table because I think our vote was invalid because they don't have a special event permit. And the ordinance actually says no person or organization shall engage in a special event unless a special event permit has been obtained by the city. So we have not obtained one, so I don't think that should even go on. Yes. I'm saying it hasn't been approved because we do not have a special event application.
Yeah, we do. I have one, and it's signed by everybody.
You've told me for 3 months now I was gonna get it, and I haven't gotten it.
I'd be happy to hand it to you.
That's fine.
Okay, but that doesn't void the permit.
Well, it all depends.
I have the permit,
Well,
and it's been
we'll
approved.
see it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And just for a point of clarification, the ordinance, the commission, remember, we discussed the ordinance as it's currently drafted, doesn't give the commission the ability to approve or deny a special event permit or any special events that come into the city. That is the sole discretion of the city manager and the department heads. It ultimately goes to the city manager.
Right, but they still have to have the application.
Correct. No, I don't disagree with you.
Can I get a copy of what you gave John?
Yes, ma'am.
And I have a question on the Old Salts Fishing Loop Tournament. It says that the fees for this event have been waived. How much are the fees?
I believe
Or
it's
is that-
on there. They're requesting the fees.
They haven't been waived yet.
They haven't been waived.
Nothing's been
They're
waived, it's
requesting.
been requested.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And he's coming for
But I
us.
believe they're going to be coming before you at the next commission meeting.
Okay.
It's about $2,000, I think, $1,400 for the room, and
How do you feel about that?
$1,630? $1,630.
They should probably pay the fee?
I don't think we should be waiving any of the fees unless everything is covered.
Right.
And the city's not paying anything for the event. The cleanup of the room, whatever rental stuff they use, trash cans, sanitation, any of it. So once that's determined, then we can figure out if we want to waive the fee. But I don't think waiving them for anybody until we are paid back, because we can't keep supporting all these events. In the rec budget, it's just a bleeding somewhere in there, and I can't find where it is because there's nowhere way to tell how bad the events are draining off of that budget.
Well, that's how, for all these events, we're giving you a spreadsheet so you'll know exactly what we're winning or losing on those special events.
I just want to break even. Basically.
We're trying our best.
Any more comments about the special events?
Can I have a little bit more information on the Sunset Concert Series?
Sunset Concert Series, that's the gentleman that presented to you at the last commission meeting. They've got, let me pull that up here, Commissioner.
That's on the Holton property?
Yes, ma'am.
Right, it's a private property, private event.
Yes, sir.
So why are we in it?
Basically, they notify us when they're having any type of special event, because that way we have our input to see if they need law enforcement, fire and EMS, if they're gonna need any type of special services, so that it's, anything that's affecting our community.
And under your
We're trying to control a private event?
Over 20, is it 25? 25 people, they have to pull a permit. Private property, private residence.
Doesn't matter where. How do we control it if we don't like what's going on? Like, if something's held here in ROC Park and, I don't know, music gets too loud or they get rowdy or something, I, as a commissioner or any one of these commissioners, can go and have that event shut down. Can I do that over at Holton property if they get loud? Or
That would be up to law
I have no
enforcement,
jurisdiction
if
over
they're
that,
being
right?
a public nuisance or a public safety hazard, then yes, possibly.
Have a liquor license. So as soon as they've got to abide by all the rules of the liquor license by the state. That's why we encourage, we don't encourage them, we mandate them to have Pinellas County off-duty deputies involved in the event. So
Right, and we had that mandated for something here at ROC Park for the bar that burnt down in Seminole, and they didn't do that, and we canceled that event. Can we do the same thing over here?
can't, no, it's not it's private property, so we couldn't
Okay,
cancel the
so
event.
we can't cancel that event if they don't come to.
If they don't get a liquor license, they're under a different, the Pinellas County Sheriffs will shut them down. Because now they've already met with the sheriff, so they've got this all wired in, so to speak. But honestly, our involvement in it is that we know that there's an event going on. That's why we started that whole 25 and above thing, because people are going down the beach, having weddings, having parties.
Telling us that they're gonna have a party, basically.
They're letting us
That's what
know they're having a party, yes.
They're not telling us where they're gonna park or.
Well, yeah, they've given us a map. That's all in it's all in the application that's in your packet.
Okay.
Now, do they have adequate parking? We're gonna see. So, really depends on how many people show up and who they get as a headliner for the.
Series, right? Do we know how many are they expecting to do?
Really depends on who they pull as a headliner for their concert. I think what we've gotten them to do after discussion, they initially had a 2-day event planned for September 30th and October 1st. I've gotten them down to, it's just going to be a 1-day event, their first time through.
And they didn't want to pay any fees? Is that why we don't want them over here? They don't want to pay any?
No, they cut a deal with the private lot owner in order to do it over there.
Okay. Thanks.
You got it. Anybody else?
The rule about 25 people, that's just for an event where the public's invited, not private events.
Oh, no, not at somebody's home. I mean, we put it in place mainly because we were having weddings were running into each other at Archibald, and we just basically said, look, and Zumba classes and yoga classes. So really what we wanted to do was be able to know what was going on the beaches when, and so we put that in place a couple years back, and it's worked actually really good.
Any more from the commission? Public comment?
Debbie Weinstein, 441 129th Avenue. I think our city attorney made an important point, and I'm sure that the commission is aware of that, that the part about the acceptance, the approval of any events is currently in the hands of the city manager. That was done 4 or 5 years ago, whatever, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And prior to that, it was always the commission's responsibility to approve all events. Now, I know that you can't approve all events with as many events as we have, okay, weddings, et cetera, like that. But I think that you must have some kind of a criteria set so that every time an event comes up, it's not, oh, who's going to approve this? Are we going to allow this? And start going into this entire dialogue. You must go back and find out what type of well, not cronyism, but whatever the word is, what type of foolishness was put into the ordinances or whoever set the criteria that the city manager has the full authority to approve it with the director and the public works director, et cetera. So that's your first step in being able to take control of policy decisions.
Was this done through an ordinance or resolution or what?
No, this is an ordinance within your code. It's under the special events ordinance. It's chapter 42, article 2. It does have, is a section that has specific standards of approval. You know, as a municipality, you cannot determine whether or not you want a special event in your town based on what the content of the event is. That would be a regulation of somebody's First Amendment right to free speech. But there are certain criteria that are in your code, such as adequate off-street parking, adequate utilities and drainage, those types of things, which would be applicable to any special event as defined in your code. And that the code does say that it's based upon the discretion of the city manager's determination and the department heads. There is some discussion with the department heads as well as delineated in your code.
So if we wanted to change that, we'd need to put a change into that ordinance.
Yes, you would have to, I can certainly look if the commission would like to look at amending the ordinance based on what you would like to do.
I think it's something we should do.
Okay, and then I would just need specifically, what are you wanting to amend? Just the discretion of the city manager? Would you like the commission to have the ability to do that? Would you like to leave that to department heads? I just need some direction on which way you'd like to go
Then it comes back to the commission?
Okay, so it would still go to the department heads, go through the city manager, and then be brought to the commission for final approval, based on the strict criteria that's in your code, and only the strict criteria that's in your code.
I think it should be over a certain number, like over 100 people.
Well, your code, and keep in mind, these are just special events, and your code defines special event as any event, any organized meeting, activity, gathering, or group of 75 or more persons, and it also requires it to involve city financial or in-kind contributions, or any type of city approval, and it goes on in the definition, but.
Okay, thank you.
The permit is specific to making sure that the city can provide for, health, safety, and welfare requirements for the event. So I can certainly go ahead and draft that, and I can bring it back at the next workshop, or I can certainly put it on the next regular meeting agenda, whichever is easiest for you.
I think on the next regular, next BOC.
Okay. So I will go ahead and I will draft an amendment, and I will put it on the next BOC meeting agenda, and I will certainly send you a copy in advance of that so that you can ask any questions and see if there's any other adjustments you'd like to make.
Great, thank you.
I received a couple of P&Ls that were a little light, I think. The only thing they put in there was entertainment as far as an expense, and it was for Beer Fest and the Rotary. There was no, and it says how much money we end up making from whatever the event was. Well, they didn't take into consideration, the garbage, sanitation, what it took to put the ball fields back together, and how many man hours were involved in that, and anything else that actually goes on in the city that I didn't mention. So we need to have all those things.
Part of those are just a general operating cost. We're going to have to maintain our ball fields and things like that. So those are just general operating costs. If you don't have an event or you do have an event, you're going to have to mow the grass. The grass is going to grow no matter what.
I understand that, but when you get a beer truck in there and it puts a big dip in it after it's rained all summer, you got to do something to the field. You can't just leave the dips in there. And we know that those trucks and everything else running over those fields are not really good for the field. and something has to be done to put them back together.
Right. Well, part of those I know were done on the out ball field, so they weren't part of the initial ball fields that they used primarily for the different tournaments that they have. So it was the out area. So the restoration was minimal on those fields.
I still don't have anything on what it
Was that
takes
on-
to do
I thought we
anything.
had put that on there.
Or the garbage, or sanitation, and who's providing all these different services for these events? I mean, it wasn't a fair P and L just to say, the only expense we had was entertainment.
Yeah, I saw one where somebody was saying that the vendor was going to do the cleanup, but others, there was no mention.
Yes, okay, so what do you want to start with? As far as the ball field restoration, we work on the ball fields every day. So if you're trying to ask me what it takes to repair a rut in the field, I couldn't even estimate that in a million years. And it doesn't take any extra man hours. We're out there working on the fields regardless of what was going to be out there in the beginning. So we had a dry day on Beer Fest. There was really no other expense. My staff actually donated their time. They worked on.
Garbage, no sanitation.
What do you mean sanitation? We took the garbage cans and the garbage bags and we put them in the dumpster. There was 1,000 people there. So there's no real extra cost. There was no extra. Dave's guys picked up the trash just like they normally do on Sunday, and it was gone. So there was really, we can't, I mean, I can't assess a fee to that. I can't come up with something for you just because you want it. And as far as the ball fields, we've got people working on the ball fields every day. They work on the ball fields every day. So if one day they're cutting the ball fields, or one day they're laying to replace a divot and putting sand in there, it's all the same stuff. It's all the same stuff. Okay, but Nancy, I'm sorry, Commissioner, I can't give you a number on that. What does it take for somebody to rake? Do you want me to calculate somebody's hours and sit out there and put a stopwatch on them? I mean, we're talking about hard costs. If you want hard costs, there's no hard cost involved in that. There's no hard cost involved.
Are we collecting the trash?
Yeah, well, we got to be more specific on which event we're talking about. For Beer Fest, we did all the trash. Yeah.
So that's a hard cost, right?
For us to collect the trash with donated people and donated time?
Oh, well, no.
Yeah, no. All was donated. My staff donated that, you know.
I mean, is that just done in every case?
Oh, absolutely not.
Did his
No.
people donate the time, Dave? Did your people donate the time? You said his people were out there doing it.
No. They picked up the trash the next day like they normally do in their normal cycle on Sunday morning.
Yeah, these are as accurate numbers that we can give you. You know, there's standard operating costs that, you know, I liken it to the firefighters. Firefighters, you're going to pay them whether they're out on a dozen calls a day or if they're out on 3 calls. More likely they're going to be on a dozen, but that's another story. But the cost is the same for the basic operation of the ball fields and the rec center. We've got costs that we're going to incur no matter whether there's an event going on there or not. If there's a minor issue with ruts in the field and it can be corrected through the general maintenance, then that's the way we're doing that. If there's anything above and beyond the normal operating costs, we'll note those things to you. We don't like losing money, trust me. So those numbers are as accurate as we can possibly give them to you. If there's something in particular that you want to discuss, we'll be happy to go over those numbers with you. So, but that's the
Every
best we've got right
event
now.
is designated to turn a profit or at least break even if we're not part of the profitability on it. So, I mean, with an Old Salts event, we don't share in any of the revenue, but that's the reason why we put the $5,000 fee, or what I proposed was the $5,000 fee on them per event. This way, if somebody does break a water line or something like that, we can fix that. Costs a couple $100 and it's done, but we still have that money in case. Repairing ruts, doing things like that, yeah, that's all part of regular maintenance. It costs a little bit of money, sure, but I can't calculate it for you. Anybody else?
Anything else from the commission? Public comment? Next, we have the surplus truck 90 and 96. Chief O'Neill.
Yes, Madam Mayor, we've got 2 vehicles that are being replaced. One of them is a 1999, and the other one is a 96. Both of them with excess mileage on them and excessive wear and tear. They're being replaced. We just need approval to send them to auction so we can recoup part of our costs.
The only question I have is on the second vehicle. It just says it's going to be examined by the city mechanic, and I mean, is it in as bad a shape as the first one looks like?
Yes, ma'am, it is. Actually, I just got that information here. It's got CV joints that need to be replaced, exhaust manifold gaskets, headliners falling out, and serpentine belt. And it is not one of your top-end vehicles. I think it's a Ford Escape. So it's seen its better days.
That one's in the budget to be scheduled for next budget year, for 2018. And it says it's
To be
designated
replaced.
for parking.
Okay.
So is it?
All he's asking is, can you send these down, please?
It says that they were gonna designate it for parking. I don't know if they're talking about the old one or the new one they wanna buy or what.
The new one, is going to be a trickle-down effect. My old vehicle is actually going to parking, and this vehicle here, when the new vehicles come in, we want these available to be surplus now, so when the new vehicles come in, we'll be able to ship these off without bringing them back to the commission 2 months or 3 months later.
And when will the new vehicles be in?
I'm hoping the replacement for the fire department will be here within the next probably month.
Any other comments from the commission? Comments from the public? Okay. I guess so we have a consensus that we agree that we can go forward with that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
And Chief, it does say that is on the agenda for the August 8th regular meeting for approval. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right, next we have the Florida League of Cities Strategic Planning, Vice Mayor Douthat.
Yes, about 4 meetings ago or so, I asked all the commission members to help me or give me some ideas on writing a mission statement and a vision and some values and et cetera. And I have received absolutely nothing from anyone. So I went out with a few people and we sat down and we spent hours and hours coming up with a mission statement and a vision. On the back table, there's copies of this. I would like to kind of read them for the people at home also. And what I'm asking for is take them home, rewrite them, fix them up, bring them back to us, and let's work on this. I think we need to move forward with a mission statement and vision and core values and a strategic plan for the city. But I'm getting absolutely no input from anyone. So that's when I went ahead and did this myself. So for the people at home or watching this, I'd just like to kind of read this and they can understand it and they can get a hold of the city and make any additions, subtractions, and then we'll look at all these and present it to the commission to come up with a vision statement and a mission statement for our city. I understand there was one a long time ago, but at this point, no one in City Hall here is able to find it. You know, it's like, well, we did one and a couple times, but where is it? You know, and so for the mission statement, I say the City of Madeira Beach encourages community partnership committed to effectively, efficiently, and equitably enhance the quality of life for our residents, businesses, and visitors. Maintain the character of a small fishing village with a low-density residential and family-oriented resort community consistent with the vision of Madeira Beach. For vision, I have Madeira Beach is a place of paradise within reach, a small fishing village noted for its charm and simplicity of life, sustainable living, and for not being part of an epicenter of mass tourism and crowded beaches. Residents and tourists alike will seek and find the peace that they are looking for thanks to the abundance of beautiful sandy beaches, turquoise waters, relaxing panoramic sunset, and its unique fishing port, complete with charter fishing trips, dolphin washing, and shell seeking, plus many restaurants specializing in fresh seafood. Like I said, this is just myself and a couple of people working on this, coming up with this. For our core values, I think that it should be culture of excellence. We respect members of the public and each other and treat all with courtesy and dignity. We rely on teamwork to provide a seamless experience for all stakeholders. We uphold high ethic standards in our personal, professional, and organizational conduct, and we continuously improve by promoting innovation
and flexibility to the best meet the needs of the stakeholders with available resources. Accountability, we accept responsibility for our personal and organizational decisions and actions while delivering cost-effective and efficient services that are done right for the first time. Communication, we openly communicate with the public and each other by sharing information and soliciting feedback to achieve our goals. Somehow, and I didn't know how to write it in there, we need to, when we talk about with each other here, we need to add in how the Sunshine Law takes, involved, but I didn't know how to really put it in there. Environment, we are concerned about our natural, historic, economic, and aesthetic resources and work to preserve and enhance them for future generations. Safety, we use education, prevention, and enforcement methods to protect life and property in the community and maintain our infrastructure and facilities to provide a safe environment in which to live, work, shop, and play. And lastly, trust, we realize the perception of our organization is dependent upon the public's confidence in our commitment to our core values and to meet the goals set collectively by the mayor and the city council. We need to move forward, ladies and gentlemen, and I think, this isn't an end-all. This is a living document that's subject to changes many times if we have to, but I think we need to do something. Too many times in our meetings, people have come up and have criticized us for doing something or for not doing something. But at the same time, we set up these committees and ask people, get involved with the city and where it's going. And we have so few applicants for the committees we've agreed to go with. And I just think, the city needs to get involved, we need to get involved, and we need to set these standards and run with them. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think this is a very good start for the document, and I think we should go forward and come back to the next meeting with some changes and maybe some few enhancements, but the basics are right here.
I would like to add that we've put some applications on the back table back there for people who would like to sign up for some of the committees. So we can try to even move forward. Thank you.
And I would like to apologize on my part for not getting back to you on this. It was on my back burner, but I guess I didn't get to it. All right, any other comments from the commission?
Vice Mayor Douther and I had spoke several times about this process here, and I think he's on the right track of giving us a direction and a vision of where we're going. We also talked about the Florida League of Cities being able to do something as far as strategic planning. Strategic planning is a large process, but it's got to be a document that's developed by the commission collectively as far as how we're going to move forward. And I think that's something that's very much needed for city staff. What you want this city to look like 4 or 5 years from now. So, thank you.
And I would also just, to tag along on that, is that when you're talking about some of these things that are in this, while this is a good piece of strategic planning, just keep in mind, like you mentioned, the sunshine laws, but also keep in mind your comprehensive plan, which governs development within the city and the future uses of the city. So that's something that you may want to keep in mind as you're talking about strategic planning for the futures. You already have a comprehensive plan in place. That is a future-looking document that does govern some of the things that you're speaking about in here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments from the commission? Public comment? All right. Next, we have the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. Chief O'Neill.
Madam Mayor, I was contacted by the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council and advised us that we basically have no one assigned to that board. And they said there's a place for us and they would like us at the table. And I thought that it would be appropriate for the commission to appoint someone to attend those meetings and represent the city.
All right, should we discuss who should be appointed, and then we would appoint them at the next meeting?
Chief, when do they meet?
The next meeting is August 14th, I believe.
Do you know how often they meet?
I believe they meet once a month.
Is it during the day, Chief?
Yes, sir, it is. I believe it's 10 o'clock in the morning.
Is it always on a Monday?
I believe that it is.
And where do they meet, Chief, do you know?
Over at the Gateway Center, over off US 19, between Park and 49th Street.
That was 8 a.m. on Mondays, right?
I believe it's 10.
10 a.m., I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
I guess I should say, do you have any volunteers?
The Army taught me not to volunteer for anything.
What was that?
The military taught me not to volunteer for anything.
Oh, I see.
I was in the Marine Corps, I'm not gonna volunteer for anything either. No, actually, I work. It's difficult for me to get off at 10 o'clock every Monday. So.
As bad as I hate to say this, you could also appoint a staff member to represent the city at those meetings.
All right, well, let's just, unless anybody has any suggestions right now, we can discuss it at the next meeting.
Yes, discuss it at the next meeting, yes.
And then perhaps, Chief, you can come up with some staffers who would be good choices?
I'll give that a shot.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is the interim clerk salary.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Mayor. Basically, what we're looking to do is we put Andrea Gamble, she's done a great job for us in the time between now and the time we get our new city clerk on board. And we're asking that we adjust her salary according with the last two city clerks that we had and bring her salary up to that pay range. Which is an hourly rate of $31.27.
So she would be in the position of an interim city clerk, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's where you have her right now.
And then when the city clerk does come in, what happens to Andrea?
Andrea will go back to her original position as administrative support specialist with the intention of getting her certified as a city clerk.
Okay, would there be a pay change then at that time by going back?
Yes, ma'am, she would roll back to her original salary.
Which is at what pay grade? Is that pay grade 4 or where's she at right now? I see the pay grades on here.
It says pay grade 4 on there.
Yeah, she's making $21 an hour currently.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand you.
She's making $21 an hour currently.
On here, Chief, it says 2704.
That's for a different position.
So she's not at pay grade 4.
Oh, I'm sorry, my apologies, I read it wrong. That's what Cheryl was
That's not
making.
her.
That's
My
what Nick-
apologies, I read it wrong.
Correct.
And would she get, would that be retroactive to,
Yes, ma'am.
which was like the last week?
Two weeks or however long she's been with the city, so.
Right,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
That almost sounds unfair because it's quite a jump in pay raise.
It
And then
absolutely is.
then to take it back.
Well, it is a jump in pay raise, but it's also a huge jump in responsibilities that she's assuming. But she was initially hired as an administrative support specialist, and we're hoping to get her certified and get her through that process to eventually become a deputy city clerk, so we won't run into the current situation that we're in presently.
So that's approximately $400 a week extra. And then when she comes in as the deputy city clerk, some of that money will be taken away from her, correct?
Will be taken away from who?
Taken away from Andrea.
Andrea, whenever the city clerk is brought in September 5th, then her pay rate will go back to the original $21 an hour. So she's only going to be compensated for the time that she is the interim city clerk.
What was the date of the new city clerk's start?
September the 5th.
Any more comments from the commission? I think we have a consensus, we can go forward.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
And that will be for approval on the next BOC
Sorry?
agenda.
Absolutely.
Any comments from the public? All right. Next, we have a discussion on the city manager's position.
Yeah, neither.
I don't have anything either.
That's basically for your discussion. You're on your own at this point. The ICMA came in the last commission meeting and gave you some options. And basically, we're just looking at, you decided to leave me in this position, and we're just looking to see how we're going to move forward with that. I know the gentleman from the ICMA has called several times wanting to know what the plans are for this position and what he should be considering, or what his options are. So basically, it's just back to you to decide how you want to move forward with this position.
And
Well-
just as a reminder, I think the last commission meeting, at the last workshop, you had approved to move forward with the plan with the ICMA. And then you had tabled for the approval at the last commission meeting. So I believe this is brought back so that you can discuss if you're still going to move forward with that or take a different direction.
Mr. Hunter called me a week and a half, 2 weeks ago and said, what are we going to do? What do we want them to do? Come in as an interim, but we've already put the chief in as the interim. But in regards to looking for a city manager, to get resumes, which doesn't cost us anything, what do we want them to do? I need to get back with Mr. Hunter and say, stop, don't do anything. Yes, please go out and, put the word out and let's get some applications. What do we want to do and what direction do we want to move in? That's what he's asking from us.
And that would be something that would have to be on the next meeting agenda to approve.
Right, but, yeah, so, that's kind of what he's asking. What do we want to do? Because he has not heard anything.
Well, from my standpoint, I think it comes down to whether or not at the next meeting, Chief O'Neill would accept the permanent position, and if he would, then we would have no need for the search.
What? I was waiting for that one.
What did you just say? Chief, you don't want to be city manager, do you?
Commissioner Lister, originally when this whole position came about, there was a lot of controversy and a lot of unrest within the city of Madeira Beach. And I've said publicly, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I enjoyed working for Mr. Crawford. There was absolutely no reason for me to want to be the city manager here in this city. Moving forward with the city manager's departure from the city and looking at some of the events that have transpired here locally, with Treasure Island in particular going out for a city manager search, getting 43 applicants, and having the headhunter doing that search advising that that was the worst group of applicants that he's ever seen, and spending $25,000 of city money and now going out for an additional search. I'm concerned about what the options are for our city. I originally stepped up in this position simply because I was concerned for the residents of the city and for the employees that I work with. And I wanted to make sure that this organization continued to function properly. With that said, I am becoming more and more comfortable in this position. I enjoy the challenges that are being presented to me. And if the position was advertised, I would definitely apply for the position. And I'd be more than happy to compete against whatever competition happens to be out there.
Well, I appreciate that, but personally, I don't know why we would need to interview anyone else when we have someone we already know is doing the job and doing it well, very well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I agree.
And thank you. It's a challenging position, and working with the commissioners, I appreciate the support that I've received from you. I also appreciate the support that I've gotten from the other department heads and from the rest of the city staff. I haven't been in this city since 2001. A lot of individuals here I already know and have a relationship with, so it's not that far of a fetch for me to fill in this position. But I do serve at the pleasure of the commission, and whatever the commission's will is what I will abide by.
guess here where we are is to go to the next meeting and make a decision then. As long as the chief's willing, I'm willing, and we can discuss it then. All right?
Just wanted to get your facts straight, Chief. The ICMA did the headhunters for Treasure Island, and they didn't pay $25,000. They are going to pay $25,000 for the headhunter.
I'm sorry, I misread that in the paper.
That's all right, that's all right. But the applicants that the ICMA brought back to the city of Treasure Island, that was a bad batch that they couldn't find somebody to replace Reed with. So just getting the facts straight.
Yes, sir.
And might I make a suggestion for the next meeting agenda to put 2 agenda items on there? The first for that, appointing the acting chief as the permanent city manager, and then the next one to add the range riders, I guess is what they used to be called, onto the as a secondary in the event that just for transparency, in the event that doesn't pass, that there's a backup item on there so that you can move forward, so as the city doesn't stay stagnant without moving forward on this. And then you can explain to the gentleman exactly what happens after the meeting, one way or the other.
They used to be called range riders, now they're called senior advisors.
Senior advisors. I couldn't recall the terminology that he had said at the presentation, but that way we cover all of our bases, so we don't have to move it to a next meeting, or it can be all taken care of and wrapped up in one meeting.
That's a good idea. All right. And finally, amendment to ordinance 2015-03. Vice Mayor Gelder. Oh, I'm sorry, public comment.
My name is Ron Logan. I'm 13231 Gulf Lane. I think the chief would make an excellent city manager, okay? I never knew the chief before, never met with him before. Had the opportunity at a meeting last Thursday. I had set up a meeting with Marcy Forbes. We've been working on an issue a couple months ago. And I called her up and I said, I'd like to have a meeting as a follow-up session. Well, when I walked in the meeting, the chief was there, Mr. Marzicano was there, Mr. DeSantis was there, and I said, uh-oh, I'm in trouble now. You know, what's going on here? Well, it's been one of the most productive meetings I've ever attended with the city. I've attended past meetings with their past management, and walked away very disappointed because the decision had already been made. At this meeting, their involvement, the fact that they followed up on everything, the fact that he was interested in everything we had to say and had initiated some things. And when you take a look at it, you've got an individual here that has the management skills. He's doing the job now. You get someone else, you bring somebody else from the outside that's going to have 18, 24 months for a learning curve to finding out the city administration, who does what within the city. And you probably want to have an individual that's probably visited every street in the city of Madeira Beach, knows the neighborhood, knows what's involved, lives here, which is very important in my consideration, I think. You're not bringing someone here that has another agenda to use this as a stepping stone to go elsewhere, okay? So, in my opinion, I think you'd make an excellent city manager. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Amendment to ordinance 2015-03.
I would like to put this on hold for time being. After talking to the city attorney, and she's going to a meeting on this next week, I think. And I'm going to the workshop in Orlando with the Florida League of Cities on this in August. So I would like to hold off on this to a future date. I had the ordinance rewritten. There probably was a couple problems in there, I'm not sure exactly, but how many problems. But so I would like to just ask that this be held off to a future board meeting until after we can look at what happens at the conference and make some decisions from there.
So put it on the next workshop?
I don't, we can put it on the next workshop at this point, and then we'll see from there if we have everything ready for it.
Okay?
Sounds good.
And I believe Commissioner,
I had a couple things I wanted to go over as well, like the website. I would like to see a document, a document that can be filled out online, and when you pick the department, it goes to the department head, it goes to the city manager, and it goes to all the commission. And what I wanted to be able to get is feedback from the residents on their experience in working with the city.
Like a customer satisfaction survey?
Yeah, good, bad, indifferent. Just, what was your experience with the city? You were in the building department. You know, did you have a pleasant experience? They give you a hard time, whatever. So that we kind of get, because I hear rumors all the time about different areas up here. And I can't come to you and say, hey, I hear this about so-and-so, because it's just hearsay.
Right.
So now if we can get real hard feedback from our residents on how they see the city working, I think it would help tone everybody to go in that direction and help satisfy them.
We can definitely do that. The issue is you're going to have a different perspective of people with law enforcement after they've written a ticket, and the fire service after we just pull them out of a car.
That's
or something.
true,
But with that said, we'll be more than happy to look at putting together some type of satisfaction survey. I'll also tell you that we met with the web people this week, and Miranda from Doug's department is going to be reworking our entire website, so it'll be more user-friendly, and we'll be able to put that on there as well.
And can you unattach Rock Park from it? Because Rock Park is not owned by the city, and it shouldn't have anything to do with the city?
Actually,
that website?
Actually, Rock Park it's on city property.
It's on the park itself. The website is not owned by the city. The website's owned by Bill Carnes.
Right.
And so whatever he's selling on that website, the money's going to him. It doesn't have anything to do with the city. That just needs to be cut off from there.
Well, we need to put that on a workshop agenda coming up or something, because while it's going into a separate fund, a lot of that does benefit the city. I mean, all the landscaping is being done out there.
We need to get a contract, some kind of city, private, however that's done. There is a contract written for that, because there is not one now. That's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you.
We'll look into that and get back to you.
Thank you. And then it's been going around on Nextdoor all week about no access to that new dock that was built out by the rec center. What's up?
Absolutely.
They're tearing it up out there.
Well, there's a fire standard that we won't deviate from, and they're looking to get that fire line put in there here like right away. Dave may be able to speak to that.
The hole was core drilled through the wall yesterday, so Tuesday of next week, we'll start to pull the pavers up and hopefully have it completed by the end of the week next week, so we can get it open.
It's a fire line?
Yes, ma'am. We have to have a dry fire line that we have to take over to the circle so that it is serviceable from that area.
All of our docks have that?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow, didn't know that. Well, it would have been nice if somebody would have put that out there, and, because that would have just made a lot of the conversation go away, you know?
Right. It's
part of the Florida Fire Prevention Code.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of stuff that we don't normally put out there, just, FYI kind of thing. But I will tell you this, is as soon as we know the date that it's going to open, we will publicize that, and there will be a grand opening and a ribbon cutting ceremony. And it's a nice addition out there to the park. The children, when they fish, are going to really enjoy that. But I'd like to get all the commissioners involved and to get some good positive PR out of it as well.
Okay, great.
So, okay.
And then the wave. I haven't seen the bid come out for the wave yet. The communication. Well, that one's coming up in October, so we need to, the contract's coming up on October.
okay. We'll pull that RFP together. RFQ.
Okay,
An
great.
RFQ, and then we'll need to have a committee with at least one commissioner, I would think.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Talk into the microphone, please.
Name and address again, I'm sorry.
13025 Pelican Lane.
And name.
We discussed a lot of times.
Name, please.
Pardon?
I know, but for the record. Go ahead.
Say your name.
Guy Critelli. Sure. Okay. I've been with Mr. Marcicano in this city for the last 12 years, Mr. Lester, about Pelican Lane. It's destroying the whole street between the parking, no sidewalk, no garbage container. It's like a junkyard in the back there. It's every day worse and worse and worse. I mean, when I lived there, I built my house, was a very nice area. All of a sudden, it got deteriorate and deteriorate and deteriorate. We've been saying, yeah, we're going to put on a workshop for some. I haven't seen nothing in the workshop for 8, 9 years, my friend. Nothing. So we have to do something about it. Even in the middle of the village, they take the tree out. I mean, I pay original. I'm one of the original Madeira Beach left it there in John's Pass. I pay for the parking over there. I pay my part there for the Board of Realty. Maybe a lot of people, Mr. Lester knows. Cones in the middle of the parking lot for the last, how many months? 7?
It's striped now
Pardon?
with cans. Cones are gone.
Well, we need to get something done. You know, it's purification. It's people that walk on Madeira Beach, all the shopper, all the, you know, we got tourists coming every day and see the cones. We should put some palms, some trees there, buckets with tree to look nice instead of the cone. I said before, and it never got done. So we need to do something on Pelican Lane, please. The garbage container is flying all the time. The parking they're doing right now is disgusting. I got a picture on my phone. I can show all you can. But I don't want to take any more of your time, but thank you very much for your time.
What happened to the sidewalk that was going to be put in there like 6 or 7 years ago? Does anybody know? Did it just kind of go away?
I wish Al was in the room because we did survey that. We didn't end up getting a price for it, but we can bring it back to the next workshop. And if that's the direction, you know, we're given, we'll go ahead and do that. And we're working with building owners now on enclosing all those dumpsters. I'd like to think they're doing a better job. But it's, you know, that's the backside of all those businesses, and, you know, we're putting pressure on them through code enforcement with Officer Krager. I don't know if you want to speak to this at all, but the cones are out of the parking lot. That was something that we didn't expect. You're going to have to come up so they can hear you. To be there that long, but that has been striped, and we've got some cans in there now, and Debbie, I think, has some ideas for maybe a potted tree or something, but the idea is to use that whole parking lot and be able to tent the entire parking lot. That was the intent of that, and that's why that project was done. I can certainly get a price to put that sidewalk down Pelican Lane. And then it's going to be up to the sheriff's office to enforce those parking issues that Mr. Catelli is referring to. The 2 parking lots, I think we've already handled with code enforcement, and we're continuing to work with that. So I can certainly do all those things, which is bring forward a price on putting the sidewalk down. You know, it's a sidewalk that would go all the way down Pelican Lane on the east side of the road.
Sorry, I was just curious what happened to it, because I know it got voted on, like I said, 6 or 7 years ago.
Yes, ma'am.
Just to understand, depending on what the price is on that, it's not budgeted in this year's budget, so.
Right.
I know for a fact that 12901 behind Pelican Lane just put down new pavement for the dumpster that was just back there because we wrote them up because the dumpster was constantly being left open, and the garbage folks were having a problem pulling it out. So they just repaved back there to give access to the sanitation. I just went back there. The 2 parking lots have just been mowed. We were having an issue. I just met with the folks, Florida Parking, on the ones there at East Lane and 129th. They're going to take care of that issue back there. They're going to mow and clean up the sidewalks right there. But I just left here to go meet with him, to go discuss that right there at 129th and East Lane. So that should be done this week.
So the issues that are bringing forward, we are addressing, but the sidewalk, I just need to get a price.
Anything else from you?
I have something, if we have a minute. We talked about the committees and to have 5 people on the committees. Right now, I think we have 2 committees with 3 people who have put in applications. Is that correct, Andrea?
Yes, we've got, we have the 3 committees. The 3 committees, I have had applications for all 3, and also planning board as well.
How many applications have you had for the planning commission?
2.
2.
You know, we talked about having 5 people on the committee. Do we want to move forward if we have 3? And then if other people come, we can add them later? I mean, I just don't have good answers, but I think these committees need to get started. And I know a few people have put in for looking at the applications, a couple different committees. Are we going to allow people to be on more than 1 committee? You know, I think, you know, I think we need to move on our BOC and kind of just make a decision on this. Otherwise, we're putting it off for another month, and we know it's next year. So I'm just asking for your opinions.
How long have the applications been available, Chief?
They were posted the day after the last commission meeting.
And can we get a list of the applicants that were already put in?
Yes, I can.
Email that to us?
I can do that.
Thank you. So you want to sunset this for the next board meeting?
Yes, you know, just and make a decision if we can go with 3, if we don't have 5, because that was one of the things we talked about, was having 5, 4 from one from each of the 4 districts and 1 at large, so to say. But if we only got 3 people, we're going to sit there and my concern when I say that is, you know, if we sit there and it's 2 or 3 months, maybe the people at that point that have already put their application and say, I've fuck with it, I'm going to move on, you know, because the city's not doing anything, they're dragging their feet. So, you know, what do we do? How do we make these committees start being a feasible option for the city and to work with us?
Maybe if we start with 3, if we don't get enough applicants, once the committee's started, more people will be interested in joining.
And that's possible also.
Need you guys to put in more applications. More applications, please.
Please.
Thank you. Right back down the back table, our application. Turn them in right here at City Hall.
And then if you are going to discuss at the next commission meeting, I can certainly go ahead and prepare amended resolutions for those committees to reflect that there would, you know, if there's not 5 available members, 3 will suffice, but a maximum of 5 available members. I can certainly do that, and then we can pass that at that.
Yeah, I think that's our only criteria. We just have to have an odd number so we don't get a
correct
2-2 vote. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the commission? Public? This meeting is adjourned.
Madam Mayor, one last thing, just as a reminder, the next budget workshop is August 1st at 6 p.m.
Alrighty. Anything else?
That's all.
Okay. Meeting is adjourned at 4:32.